Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast. Adventures of one obsessed nutrition coach on a mission to create a world where food makes you better. It's Tuesday, guys, and it means it's our deep dive on nutrition episode. Basically, we are talking a little bit more about the science of eating, the science of healthy eating, the science of nutrition and food on a mission to help you feel and perform better on all levels. And guys, have you ever felt while working out or maybe just running around doing things you gotta do, we all gotta do, and you felt like you didn't have energy? Or while working out, you felt dizzy, or maybe your blood pressure went low, or maybe sometimes your blood pressure goes up. Or maybe you feel fatigued, or maybe you feel like your muscles are weak while working out, or you feel weak in general, just, going around your days and doing things. Believe it or not, but a lot of it has nothing to do with the amount of calories you consume. Like when you feel weak or you feel like you can't work out or you can't exercise, like there is already too many things you gotta do or you're doing, and you never feel like you have energy or drive for anything. Or you might even have problems with your blood pressure, or maybe your heart starts racing sometimes at night, sometimes during the day, or irregular heartbeats. I'm saying a lot of these things that seemingly might be related, might not be related, but actually, when it comes to nutrition, they all might be connected to one thing that our cells always do. Like in order for our body to function well, for our muscles to contract, and by the way, our heart is a muscle, our stomach is a muscle. So when I'm talking about muscles, I'm not just talking about muscles that help us to lift things, but also about muscles that are essential for our life and our functioning, and every single process depend on it. Like if your heart not gonna pump the blood through your body with the nutrients and oxygen, then you can die. So muscle contraction depend on the signals that our cells transmit between each other. Muscle contractions, they're all about transmitting electrical impulses. But also, for example, our brain is a part of our nervous system, and our nervous system basically runs our body. And so these processes, or the specific nutrients that we will be talking more about today, they help our cells, our nerve cells, our muscle cells to transmit those electrical impulses, and basically they help our cells to communicate between each other, and that helps our body to function. Now, if that doesn't happen all that well, it means that you might feel like you lack energy even though you might be eating quite a lot of calories. You might feel like your blood pressure either too low or too high. You might feel like your brain is not really working that fast. You might feel some numbness or tingling in your extremities or your fingers, your hands, your feet. Again, your heart might be racing sometimes, or it might seem like your heartbeat is irregular. You might be experiencing a lot of difficulties while you exercise, be that energy levels or your blood pressure, or just feeling dizzy and feeling weak. And all of that is related to our cellular function, to our muscle contractions, to our nerve cells working properly and transmitting signals to each other in our brain, but also in all our nerves that are everywhere throughout our body. And this function of transmitting these signals between each other of our different cells, they depend on these things called electrolytes. When it comes to human nutrition, human physiology, biology, electrolytes are some of the essential minerals that help our cells to transmit those signals. So from one part of the cell, from inside cell to outside of the cell, and then, for example, when it comes to nerve cells, to transmit that impulse between cells. So our cells need all these, our bodies need all these minerals, certain minerals that we will be talking about today. And if we don't get them, then this function of transmitting signals between cells, be that muscle cell, be that nerve cell, or other cells, they're just not going to happen that well. And you might experience different performance downfalls, or you're just not going to feel like doing much, again, low in energy, but also your blood pressure, your heartbeats, the way your brain works. And some of those electrolytes, not all of them, are sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. There are a few others, but usually people tend to eat enough of them. When it comes to sodium also, most people, unless you are trying to restrict a lot of stuff, most people do get enough sodium, and it is also an essential electrolyte. If we don't have sodium ever, we can and we will die, because when our heart is not able to contract, or our nerve cells are not able to communicate, we die. And so, but sodium, again, most people are eating sodium. Plus, sodium is not just in salt, but it's also in different vegetables, different also animal foods, especially if there was some blood in that animal tissue, then there is also sodium. For example, seafood naturally has a lot of sodium, right? So sodium, I'm talking about salt. Sodium is the actual thing, an actual mineral that our body uses as electrolyte. And salt, that's where you usually find a lot of sodium, but also sodium, again, in other foods too. So usually we are getting sodium, but the more you sweat, and also with some metabolic conditions, you might be excreting a lot of sodium. And also we excrete sodium with urine and other waste, so we constantly need to replenish sodium. But usually, again, most people are getting enough and more than enough. But when it comes to potassium, when it comes to magnesium, when it comes to calcium, because of the nature of our food system and how it is organized, and also because a lot of people are eating very unbalanced diets, and there is a lot of processed foods, because of that, people tend to be deficient in potassium, magnesium, and calcium. So for example, muscle contraction, guys, the electrolyte calcium, it's not only good for our bones and our teeth, but it also is needed for muscle contraction. It allows muscle fibers to slide together and move over each other as the muscle shortens and contracts. Magnesium is also required in this process so that muscle fibers can slide outward and muscles can relax after contracting. By the way, guys, if you are having cramps in your muscles, it's definitely an electrolyte imbalance. And just by simply taking a supplement, potassium and magnesium, especially if you're an athlete, that will remove that problem of muscle cramps. So if you are experiencing muscle cramps on a regular basis, then it means that you are not getting some of the electrolytes. But then, electrolytes are not just needed for nerve cells communication, for our muscle contraction, and for our heart health and our healthy blood pressure. Electrolytes like magnesium, for example, magnesium is involved in more than 600 reactions in the body, a lot of which has to do with energy creation and DNA replication, or basically how much energy we have and how long and how well we live. Or calcium, let's say, right? Calcium is also needed to maintain bone health, to maintain teeth health, to oral health, to maintain a lot of other things. So electrolytes are purposeful, essential minerals for our body. But this specifically, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, guys, when I don't get enough potassium or magnesium, I feel it right away. Have you ever experienced that feeling? It's maybe 4 or 5 p.m. and sometimes later, but you feel like your brain just doesn't work. Like you sit and you're trying to read something or remember something or work on something, but it's just not flowing. Like, you sit and look at a piece of text and it just doesn't make sense to you. Believe it or not, that can also be caused by electrolyte imbalance. You cannot be getting enough potassium or magnesium. That's what I noticed specifically. And if you are, for example, on some restrictive diet, you might be thinking, oh gosh, I don't have energy because I don't eat enough, or because I'm restricting, I don't know, a carbohydrate or fat or something, and I need to eat more. Well, actually, you might need more, but you specifically need to eat more electrolytes, or sometimes, it's easier to supplement for them. But I highly recommend to get all of them in your foods with all the other nutrients. They seem to work for many other reasons better, but also supplementing is a solution. But today it's food school. We are talking about foods that are rich in those, as you can understand, essential electrolytes. So let's start first talking about potassium. Potassium actually, because again of the nature of our diets these days, we tend to not get enough, and we need quite a lot of it. Usually they say, all the databases and all the research, they suggest us to get 3.5 or 4.7 grams of potassium. And to give you an idea, usually we need micronutrients in micrograms. So you would need like 100, like for example, when it comes to iron, we need just 15 micrograms, right? It's if you compare it to potassium, we need 3,500, or not micrograms, milligrams, to 3,500. That is a low end. On a higher end, and that is what recommended for optimal performance, is somewhere around 4,700 milligrams. Again, compared to, let's say, iron or zinc. Actually, we need 15 milligrams, and iron we need somewhere around 8 milligrams, depending whether you're female or male, etc. But compared to that, you need potassium in thousands of milligrams. You need it in grams, basically. And for micronutrient, non-caloric mineral, that is quite a lot. And there are just few foods really rich in it, and a lot of people, for one reason or the other, just either not eating enough food or not eating the right kind of food. Plus, because potassium mostly is concentrated in vegetables, people are generally not eating as much vegetables to get a significant amount, a meaningful amount of potassium. So, and potassium, again, it's highly involved in the maintenance of your blood pressure, for example. Also, you tend to get cramps, or you might experience irregular heartbeats because of potassium imbalances. And if you're an athlete and you are interested in physical performance, then potassium is for sure needed in big amounts. That's why they include it in a lot of sports drink, with a lot of sugar, of course. But anyhow, eat your potassium in foods. And so the richest food in potassium, as I discovered recently, actually, and that's why if you look at my Instagram stories, I'm eating them on a regular basis. I mean palm hearts. Palm hearts, you can buy them and cook them. They're kind of white, kind of like a shoot. They taste like asparagus, some people say. I also say that. They can be canned, and that's how I buy them. I buy a can of palm hearts that are quite delicious. They're usually in brine and they salted, and I just add a little bit of spices, and they're actually quite delicious. And I combine them with sardines that are also a source of another essential electrolyte, and this is like electrolyte heaven. So anyhow, palm hearts, again, we need somewhere around 3,500 milligrams of potassium, at least, as the studies say. And then 4,700 milligrams is what's recommended. So palm hearts will give you 3,612 milligrams per 200 grams. Basically, if you get a can, so that's how much potassium you're gonna get. The good thing about palm hearts is they have about 30 calories and almost no existent carbs or protein or fat. So they kind of like neutral, very dense source of potassium. And that's why I love palm hearts. You eat that can, you eat 60 calories, almost no fats, no calories, no carbs, no nothing, and you get naturally 3,612 milligrams of potassium. That's why I love palm kernels. They are delicious, especially if you put some herbs and spices on them. They are like super delicious. The next one, it's kind of like higher on carb, arrowhead. And arrowhead, yeah, it looks kind of like, I guess, when you look at it as raw vegetable, it looks like a little bit like beetroot, but it has this funny long end or tail on the top of it, and it is a root, so probably is similar, like I said, beetroot. It's a little bit richer in carbohydrates, somewhere around 40 grams per 200 grams, but I guess not that rich, because 100 grams or 3 ounces will give you only like 20 grams of carbohydrates, plus the fibers also in there. The fiber content, you need to look it up. But anyhow, arrowhead will give you per 200 grams 1,844 milligrams. So if you're someone who enjoys eating roots and they are delicious and high in many nutrients, then arrowhead is something I haven't yet tried, guys, so I can't advise you on that. But it's something I would probably search for and look out the next time I'm shopping for foods. So arrowhead, 1,844 milligrams of potassium. Avocados, also a great source of potassium, and they are quite rich in fiber, in monounsaturated fatty acids, and in a lot of other good things. And plus, they're super delicious, right? And you can make salsa out of them. Salsa or, no, guacamole, that's the thing I'm forgetting. So avocados, one average avocado will give you, that is somewhere around 200 grams without a stone. Will give you 990 milligrams of potassium, quite high. Banana, by the way, let me check out the banana, because a lot of people thinking that bananas are like the highest potassium rich food, whereas it's not actually the case, and it's quite high in carbohydrates and sugars, but also has a good amount of fiber. So 200 grams of banana will give you 700 milligrams of potassium. So as you can see, it's lower than an avocado. But if you're someone who's trying to eat less fat, not more fat, then banana might be your thing. If you are an athlete and you're trying to get more carbohydrates and get a little bit more energy running on carbohydrates, then a banana might be your thing. So it's 700 per an average banana, I guess, 200 grams. The next one, arrowroot, it's actually higher in potassium than banana. It's right after avocados, I think. Plus, it's super rich in folate. 200 grams of arrowroot, that kind of looks like ginger but not orange, will give you 908 milligrams of potassium. Plus, it's twice as low in carbohydrates as arrowhead. So for low carb folks like I am, it's also another option. 200 milligrams will give you 900 milligrams of potassium. 200 grams will give you 900 milligrams of potassium. And then, Brussels sprouts, my favorite Brussels sprouts, 200 grams will give you 900 milligrams of potassium. Salmon, actually, when it comes to animal foods, salmon is the one and only super high in potassium food. Well, actually, chicken livers will also give you some potassium. That's why I love liver. It has so many things. But salmon, 200 grams, a little bit more than an average portion, I guess. 200 grams or 6 ounces will give you 824 milligrams of potassium. So that's your food if you're trying to load up on potassium. Button mushrooms, I like button mushrooms or champignons because they are rich in potassium. 200 grams will give you, say, 756 milligrams, but they also like super low in calories. So 200 grams will give you 44 calories and almost no fat, no nothing. And a lot of beneficial prebiotic fiber that feeds your gut bacteria. So champignons, button mushrooms. Then potatoes, guys. Not that rich in potassium, I guess, kind of compared to other foods, more on the lower end. So 200 grams or an average potato will give you 740 milligrams of potassium, and that goes for sweet potato or a regular potato. Spinach, guys, another food for potassium, a little bit less than 700 milligrams for 200 grams, and then chicken livers, 520 milligrams. And by the way, sardines, you know, if you are someone who loves sardines, they also have a chunk of potassium. So 200 grams or a little bit, or 6 ounces, like 2 tins, will give you 486 milligrams. So, you know, if you are eating sardines, you are as well getting some potassium, and that all accumulates. I like multi-purpose foods, guys. The food that you eat, like sardines, and you're getting your potassium, but also you're getting your calcium, you're getting your phosphorus, you're getting your collagen. Like, so that's why I'm such a huge fan of sardines. And so that's for potassium. As you can see, you might not be eating palm hearts, arrowhead or arrowroot, avocados, Brussels sprouts, salmon, button mushrooms, sweet and regular potatoes, spinach, chicken livers, sardines. Like, if you're not eating these foods, the chances are you are very low in potassium, and that's why you might be feeling low in energy, or you're having problems with your blood pressure or a heartbeat, or yeah, a lot of things can get wrong without potassium. Magnesium, guys, another one. Again, 600 and more reactions in your body. We need it less than potassium, just 350, 450 milligrams. But it is quite essential. You can also experience problems with your sleep and, again, energy levels and a lot of other cellular functions. So magnesium, and that's one, you know, quite hard to get actually in a lot of foods. Arrowhead, by the way, the food that is also quite high in potassium, it has 102 milligrams of magnesium per 200 grams. So, you know, like another multi-purpose food, rich in electrolytes, potassium and magnesium. It will give you a little bit less than 1/3 of your magnesium, but you're getting also 1/3 of your potassium with not so many calories. Swiss chard. It's that colorful green leafy vegetable that you can saute with olive oil or water and onions and spices, and it's delicious. So Swiss chard, 200 grams, almost calories like almost non-existent, because it's a leafy green, as you can imagine. Calories, carbs, like besides the electrolytes and fiber, not so many things, but they're super healthy, super good for us. So Swiss chard, 163 milligrams of magnesium, and again, you need 350 to 450 milligrams of magnesium. Spinach, besides being an okay food for potassium, it's high in magnesium, 150 milligrams per 200 grams, so 6 ounces. Brazil nuts, 30 grams or 1 ounce will give you 123 milligrams of magnesium. That's why I love Brazil nuts so much. You know, you eat a little and you get your selenium, magnesium, and a lot of other things. Besides, they're super delicious, if you ask me. Cashew, 30 grams, 1 ounce of cashews, 81 milligram of magnesium. Not a super cool source, but if you are eating cashews, then you are getting some magnesium. So next time you eat a lot of cashews, at least you know you're getting a lot of magnesium. So to recap, 350, 450 milligrams of magnesium, especially if you are having trouble sleeping, you having irregular heartbeats, you having cramps, your energy levels not where they're supposed to be. Look into the magnesium, guys. So Swiss chard, spinach, Brazil nuts, arrowhead, cashews, look into those foods. Calcium. Again, calcium is needed for so many things: to keep our blood alkaline, to keep our bones healthy, to keep our teeth healthy, But then again, it's an essential electrolyte. You might experience problems with your blood pressure. You might experience problems with your muscle contraction, with a lot of things when you don't get calcium. And so some people think, a lot of people actually think that you gotta drink milk and eat yogurt for calcium. But actually, the richest source in highly absorbable calcium bonds that you can find, guess where? Canned sardines. The reason why I say canned sardines, because if you cook your fish, you're not going to be eating bones because they're going to be hard and you're not going to be able to chew them and safely eat them. When it comes to tinned seafood, even there are also cans with tinned salmon with bones, but you can less often find those. Like in Russia, I could. Here in Switzerland, not so much. But sardines, they do always come with, well, no, not actually always. You gotta specifically look at the label and make sure that your sardines in cans have skin and bones, and that is your richest source of calcium. So one can will give you 530, I think, or something like it. Well, more than 100, more than 500 milligrams of calcium. And for a day, you need somewhere between 1,300 milligrams of calcium, so quite a lot. And sardines, just one can, 84 grams of actual sardines will give you half of that basically. And then if you eat 2 of them and on top of that maybe drink some calcium rich mineral water, you're going to be getting all of your calcium, and it's going to be highly absorbable calcium that goes all to the right places. There is a difference between calcium in a supplement and calcium in mineral water or in food, like bones in your canned sardines. So you eat 2 cans a day of sardines, you're going to get some potassium, some magnesium, a lot of phosphorus, a lot of calcium, protein, omega-3 fatty acids, collagen, like a lot of things. That's why I love sardines, right? So again, 1 can of sardines will give you 570 actually milligrams of calcium, highly absorbable calcium. In comparison to yogurt, I wrote it down somewhere. Yogurt will give you 169 milligrams of calcium. Let me check that again in the database. Calcium, 189 milligrams of calcium you're gonna get from 150 gram, or an average person an average portion of plain Greek yogurt, for example. So just 189 milligrams of calcium. So from all points of view, sardines in cans are much better source of calcium and all of the other nutrients. So go for sardines for calcium. What else? For calcium, you might also look at sesame seeds. 1 ounce of sesame seeds will give you 200 milligrams of calcium. And if you're someone who loves tahini, so another reason to love your tahini, sesame seeds, a great source of highly absorbable calcium. When it comes to cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano is the highest in calcium cheese, quite high actually, 50 grams or a little bit less than 2 ounces will give you 550 milligrams of calcium. And again, it's almost half, probably half, but it is recommended by some sources, 1,300 milligrams of calcium. So anyhow, Parmigiano Reggiano, and just 50 grams, again, a little bit less than 2 ounces. So calcium, potassium, magnesium, let's recap a little bit. And let's again, look at the bigger picture. You need your electrolytes, or some of the essential minerals for muscle contraction, to transmit signals between your nerve cells. And by the way, in your brain, you have the most amount of neurons that do require a lot of electrolytes. So if you can't think clearly, that might be the reason. If you have a regular heartbeat, if your energy fluctuates a lot, if you feeling weak while working out, if you have cramp, if you are having cramps, like all of that, and also problems with digestive system, because our stomach is also a muscle. If you are not getting electrolytes, then your stomach muscle might not be contracted well. So for so many and other reasons, you need to be eating sodium for sure. But most of you are eating it, and if not, then you might look into that. So potassium, magnesium, calcium. For potassium, you need to be eating palm hearts, arrowhead, and arrowroot, avocados, bananas also, Brussels sprouts, salmon, button mushrooms, sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, spinach, chicken livers, and sardines. For magnesium, Swiss chard, spinach, Brazil nuts, arrowhead, and cashews. For calcium, canned sardines is your to-go calcium source, and any fish canned with bones. Why canned? Again, because otherwise bones going to be too hard for you to eat. Sesame seeds in 1 ounce, 200 milligrams of calcium. Parmigiano Reggiano, a little bit less than 2 ounces, 50 grams, 550 milligrams of calcium. Greek yogurt, 1 cup of Greek plain yogurt, 190 milligrams, so 189 to be precise, milligrams of calcium. So that's your masterclass for these essential minerals or electrolytes that help our cells to communicate and to transmit electrical impulses that are quite important for our wellness, health, fitness, well-being, happiness, and energy levels, and anything and everything related to our health. So eat your potassium, calcium, magnesium. Re-listen to this episode. If you know someone who is an athlete, who is constantly complaining about the quality of their sleep or their irregular blood pressure or cramping, share this episode with anyone who's complaining to you about any of that, or just with someone you love who you think can benefit from this episode and eating more electrolyte-rich foods. So you'll do a great favor, and I would love you so much more if you share this podcast episode with one person who you believe will benefit from it. So thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And as usual, till next time, eat better daily. And don't forget to eat some electrolytes today.